and welcome to another SpouseLink live stream. These live streams are designed for military spouses who are thinking about military retirement, experiencing military retirement right now, or crossing over or have already crossed over into military retirement. I'm Anna Larson. I am a copywriter and digital marketer by trade, and I am also the SpouseLink ambassador for retired and transitioning military families. And I am so excited to be here with you today. This journey of military retirement we took about almost exactly a year ago. And the struggles that my family experienced is what has led me to SpouseLink and AFMA, which is the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. And through SpouseLink and AFMA, now I jump on these live streams a couple times every month and have conversations in LinkedIn and through the SpouseLink blog, just talking about topics that are important for military spouses in particular that are struggling with this retirement process or perhaps don't know where else to turn. So today we are going to be talking about something really important. It is going to be the survivor benefit plan versus life insurance. And it's not really a versus, but it is kind of a versus because this is like the question that you see repeated over and over and over again in almost every military retirement Facebook page, group. I mean, everyone wants to know. Are you taking SBP, Survivor Benefit Plan? That's what that stands for. Or are you going to do life insurance, or are you going to do both? And nobody really seems to have all the good answers. So I have a guest today that's going to come on and talk about it with us, going to give some great information and give you a great starting zone where you can find out what's going to work out best for you and your transitioning military family. So, okay. Just to start, thank you for joining us again. If you're just popping on, tell me where you're joining from. Pop that into the comments. This is a super interactive live stream. I'd love to see comments, questions as they come through. We're going to pop them up on the screen. And again, today we're talking about the Survivor Benefit Plan, life insurance, and this is the final in a 4-part finance series that we've done for retiring and transitioning military families. So, okay. Moving on, I'm going to introduce my guest really quick. Let me pull her bio up right here. Sarah Bumgardner. Now, if you've watched any of the 3 prior live streams that we've done, you'll know that Sarah's like my bestie now. She's so fantastic. This woman has like an answer for everything. And if she doesn't have the answer, she has a resource that you can go to when it comes to transitioning and finances and all the things that are attached to that. So just, I've read her bio a few times, but just to give you some highlights on Sarah. Sarah this is what she says. She says, I get excited about budgeting and money because I really like money and I want to keep as much of it as I can. I think we can all kind of identify with that maybe a little bit. She is the member benefits coordinator with AFMA. And as I mentioned before, AFMA is what powers SpouseLink. Sarah was a military spouse for 11 years, and she previously worked at AFMA as a senior Veterans Affairs coordinator in Western Virginia. So she knows what she's talking about. She's also the mother of 2 boys. And just on a personal note, I'm just going to throw this out there. She just got back from a fabulous skiing trip, and she's like a queen on the slopes. So if you want to talk skiing, then Sarah is there for you too. But without further ado, I am going to bring Sarah on and say hi. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Anna. I'm so glad to be here. As always, thank you for having me. I'm a little sad though because this is our last chat, right? Like this is the end, but it's not the end. Nevertheless,
it's not the end. We're already pre-planning what's going to happen next for us, right? We're gonna find something else that we can talk about together because I know that even just the 4 things we have talked about, which were the benefits you keep and the benefits you lose, budgeting, and we're not talking about this month budget. We're talking that 20 to 30-year life plan budget. And then last time we talked about the TSP and what you should be thinking about, or what options you have, what you can do with it. And today it's about the survivor benefit plan and life insurance. So, I mean, 4 massive topics for retiring families, right?
Yes. Yes, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to talk today about that SBP and life insurance and just kind of dive into it. I think it's a great way to end this series on some really big topics.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you. And I am excited to dive into today's, because SBP was yet another one of those. I mean, I love telling it sounds like I was totally lost during this transition. I just want to preface this by saying, I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I had the resources I needed, and we were going to figure it out, and we were going to be smooth sailing. And it wasn't until after the fact that I realized how much I didn't know. Mostly because I didn't know what I didn't know, if that makes sense. And so hopefully this series, and then all the other SpouseLink live streams that we do for these retiring and transitioning families, will help support military spouses in knowing what they don't know, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do.
That is what we're here to do. Okay. So Sarah, let's start with our very first question. I'm just going to pull it up here. I mean, if I make a banner, I got to use it, right? So Sarah, can you start us off and tell us, what is the Survivor Benefit Plan, or SBP?
Yes. So like all things that I have presented, I like for people to start at the beginning, because that's how we get a true understanding, right, of what we're talking about. So we gotta walk before we run. The Survivor Benefit Plan, it's kind of like a life insurance benefit, but it's very different than a traditional life insurance. When you are leaving the service, a service member can buy Survivor Benefit Plan, SBP. And it's at 6.5% of your base pay, your monthly base pay. And what that affords is it affords your spouse, should you pass away, 55% of your retired pay. So that's where it's a little bit like a life insurance, but different. This is something that that a spouse and a service member must decide together. So you have to have this conversation. You have to make a decision together, because the non-military spouse can veto your election. So should you decide to not elect and participate in SBP, the spouse has to sign off on that. Or if you're not going to participate in the maximum level, you have to sign off on that. And if you decide that...
I'm sorry, sir. Can I just jump in here and say, for military spouses listening, there is literally no other thing I can think of where we get to veto a military decision.
Yes, you have the power.
We can't veto deployments. We can't veto training exercises. We can't veto, where they're working or where we're going to go live. But we get to veto their decision on SBP. That's how important this is. Like,
that's right. Huge. And I'm so glad you stopped to just reiterate that, because you're correct. Your service member is automatically enrolled in this. And unless you consent in writing to reduce it or have no coverage, you have the power. They can't take it, not take it. You've got to have a say in it. And so it's a very important conversation, which is why we need to understand it. We need to understand financially what it means. And that's what we're going to go through through these series. So one of the ways in understanding that is understanding that the premiums are paid, right? So you have to pay like a life insurance policy, a premium. They're taken from the gross retired pay, which means you get a little bit of a tax break. That's nice. And the eligible children are also can be an SBP beneficiary. And this is a decision that's made for forever, right? So once a decision is made, if you decide, say you're married and you decline SBP at retirement, and then you get married at a later date, or there's a new spouse, or even a death or divorce happens, you can't go back. So you have to make a finite decision on this, a yes or a no. So we should educate ourselves. We should know what it means to do that. And that's what we're going to get into here. So that gives a little bit about what SBP is and what we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I just have to, I just have to say, my experience with SBP, again, remember, I thought I knew what I was doing. My husband came home with the paperwork. We read through it, and then we pulled out our budget that we had, and we pulled out my phone, my calculator, right, and pens and paper. We sat down, and then we started, and I said, okay, if you die at age 60, like, what a morbid conversation, right? But we had to do this, right? So I said,
You have to.
at age 60, then what is the amount I need to be able to support myself and my kids with what I get currently from my job, when I plan to retire? I mean, we had all these calculations we were sorting out, and we were doing this by hand. And when I say by hand, I mean, we had a spreadsheet that, we could enter in the numbers and it could calculate for us, but this is my brain functioning like overtime. We went 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, with me always, of course, living longer than him. I mean, because that's the whole point of SBP, and then it was trying to figure out, when did that return on investment actually make sense for our family?
Mm-hmm.
And so was SBP worth it in that sense?
Mm-hmm.
But I know, Sarah, that there is a better way to figure out SBP and what it can do or not do for your family than what I went through for 2 to 3 hours with my spouse, having this terrible conversation about if he died incrementally every 5 years from when we were starting. So Can you give us some information about that?
Yes, and you're right. There is a better way. You can very simply actually go to a website through the Department of Defense, and you can calculate the SBP premiums. And you fill in the information, your base pay, time entered service, things like that. It takes about 3 minutes, and you're going to then be generated with, this is your SBP amount, and this is your premiums. And I'm so glad, though, to know that you sat down, pen to paper and did the due diligence of it. But there's a quicker way to do it.
Can I just say, when I hear you say the words 3 minutes, I just want to die, right? We were there for so long. And then it was double checking our math to make sure we got it right. Because, it gets real confusing after a while. Like, wait a second, Bella will, my daughter will have aged out by this point in time. She should be on her own supporting herself. But what if she isn't? Or what if, there's so many things that you just don't know. So, okay, I just threw into the links and for this live stream, this tool, this link to the actuary, the defense.gov site. Mm-hmm. So if you're watching right now, you can pop into the comments and you can see this tool that just popped up here. It's right there. For the link right there, I just gave it to you. So you can go there and see for yourself. But just to kind of give them a preview, let me bring up the actual website. Yeah. This is what it looks like. So Sarah, can you just walk us through the 4 options and what they are?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we're going to focus really on the top one and the bottom one. And so the top one is going to be calculating your SBP premiums. And when you see, you can calculate SBP premiums, you're going to come up with a number that's going to then say, this is what it's going to cost me, and this is how much my spouse would get. And then what you can also do, which is what we're going to kind of talk about next, is SBP versus life insurance. This page can actually calculate that for you. You see SBP life insurance there. If you click there, you can put in varying amounts of life insurance you're thinking about maybe getting, and then you can determine, okay, well, how long would my SBP monthly amount last? So it'll give you a cost comparison to see, basically when you would run out of life insurance in relationship to SBP if you were to take that. And as we start talking, we're going to get into kind of the numbers of that and understanding that more. And I'm going to actually kind of walk through financially what that looks like. But this is a great place because it will do the legwork for you. It does all those calculations for you. And it's very quick. You just plug in the numbers, takes 3, maybe 5 minutes. I would say probably more 3 minutes. And you'll have a nice comparison there.
This is definitely one of those don't be like Anna moments, right? go to the website, and the spreadsheet it's an actual Excel spreadsheet that downloads to your computer. So you can house it on your own computer, and you can manipulate it in whatever ways you feel like you need to manipulate it. So it's not online. You don't have to keep going back to that website. Once you download it, then it's just yours to keep and use for however you need it. So highly recommend this versus the 3 hours with calculator and pen and pencil in hand. This is a much better way of figuring that out. So, okay. So yeah, Sarah, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we really want to kind of ask the big question that everyone says. So now that we kind of know what SBP is, what the survivor benefit plan is, and who's eligible for it, and that it comes via the military, is SBP better than life insurance? That's like the question, right? Do you
$1 question.
go that direction? Which one's going to give you better coverage? Can you walk us through that?
Yes. So we're going to start getting into it. So life insurance it's definitely something that needs to be in the conversation when you're talking about this, right? And you have to sit down. We said you have to sit down with your service member and have this conversation. And it's just that. This is to get everyone thinking, conversing with your military spouse about different options. So we want to consider some things outside of the financial aspect as well. Some things we want to think about are, what is your comfort or risk level, your risk tolerance level and your comfort level? What is your age and what is your health? It's very important. You want to talk about your RMD age 72, your required minimum distributions. Will life insurance carry you to age 72? What will be your estimated RMDs at age 72? And a financial planner can calculate that.
Can you tell them what your RMDs are? You already said what RMDs are.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, so but I was going to
go
one step further is, right, if we've been following along through this series and you've been following that budget, then by the time you get to RMD age, you should have a pretty substantial amount of retirement saved. So at age 72, you're going to be required to take that money out. Something that we've talked about too is that nobody likes to think about divorce, but of course, it can happen. And what happens to SBP at that time? SBP is that finite decision. And so we've got some pros and cons, that you can kind of look at to see that, to say, here are pros, here might be some cons, and then here's the eligibility of who could possibly be eligible for this benefit. And these are things we've got to talk about before, I show you the numbers and I say, okay, let's do the actual hard calculation. A lot of this is an emotional decision too, which has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah. So is there anything specific about the pros or cons that you would pull out to make sure military spouses or military members are really identifying as they go through the considerations for SBP or life insurance?
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of it is, and we'll kind of talk about this, but I think one of the biggest things to think about and to look at is really that your risk tolerance, what's your comfort level, but looking at your investments and looking at where you've been saving and how you've been saving. And, do you need to kind of lock into this 30-year program that you can't get out of? And should something happen to your spouse, whether a divorce or a death, you're still on the hook for, I guess. So that's something to really think about. And it's a personal decision, right? I can't make that. You can't make it for somebody. It's a personal decision. I can show you kind of the finance of it, but you've got to feel comfortable with it. It's like anything. You've got to be able to sleep well at night, right? With your decision.
Absolutely. Okay. So I love how this is such good information. I love how it's just broken down. So really anyone watching this can set themselves up for success, the side by side, this SBP information, the eligibility pros and cons, because there really are pros and cons for each option, SBP or life insurance. So let me pull up this next slide and let's walk through kind of those numbers that you were talking about.
Yeah, so this is where we really dive in. And again, this is just to get people thinking, right? This is just to say, okay, I need to think of all of the aspects of this. So we see this table here. And what does this mean? Well, first we have SBP for a spouse, that first blue line. And we've taken an '05, a lieutenant colonel retiring after 25 years. Your SBP premium would be about $650 a month. And that would afford your spouse $5,390 a month for the rest of their life. Now, $560 per month is about $7,800 a year, or $234,000 to pay up that benefit. So at 30 years, you've paid up your SBP, takes 30 years, and that would cost you $234,000, right? And so this just kind of shows you what that means financially. And so we go into, okay, well, what if I just get life insurance? Well, somebody who gets a term policy, who's 45 years old, pretty good health, a term policy for $800,000 for 30 years, right, is going to be $165 a month. And again, so these numbers are, these are our numbers here at AFMA. I can speak to our life insurance. It's more, not so much about the numbers, it's more the concept that we want to take away from this. So at $800,000 for 30 years until age 75. And so this number is important, right? Because have we been investing like we talked about previously, you're going to be getting those RMDs at age 72. So this term policy for 30 years would cost you $59,000 approximately. It's a pretty big difference in cost, right? So if you take that $800,000 in SBP and that monthly rate of $5,390, which is your SBP monthly rate, $800,000 would last you 12 years. So you could take that, we'll say $5,300 a month, which would have been your SBP amount at $800,000 in term policy, and you could live for 12 years. So that's where you have to think about your cost comparison. How long is somebody going to live? How old am I? How close am I maybe to Social Security or to my RMD age? And run those different scenarios. Now, when we talk about whole life is a bit different. It's like SBP, and then it will go until death, right? So it doesn't end in 30 years like a term policy. Now, we did kind of an apples to apples comparison. If you had a premium of $650 for a whole life policy, that would get you $437,000 in a guaranteed death benefit. But the way a whole life policy works is that it is increasing based off of a crediting rating. So again, I'm just speaking here to our life insurance that's offered in regarding to pricing and returns at AFMA, but this is just to get everyone thinking, to do your own research, call multiple agencies and figure that out. So for us here, it's a 4.5% crediting rating. So for 30 years to pay up a whole life policy at 4.5%, that $437,000 death benefit would be upwards now of $1 million if you live to be 100 years old, and close to that 100-year mark. So it increases pretty substantially. So all of this is to say it's a cost comparison and a risk tolerance comparison. What feels right for you and your timeline and your horizon? A lot of times people come and say, so you're telling me if I pick a term policy, I can save $174,000 in 30 years. Well, yes, technically, but you have to have the due diligence then to invest otherwise. You have to be growing in a marketplace. You have to be thinking ahead. You can't just spend that on a boat, right? So yes, you can, but you have to think that through. So this gives a scenario of just saying, let's have the conversation. Let's understand our timelines. Everybody's getting out of the military at a different age with different health, different age of children, different places in your life. So you need to just look to see what makes sense for you and your family. But it's important to ask the question and to educate and to continue to ask the question until you feel like you can sleep well at night. When you go in to either say, yes, I want SBP, or no, I don't want SBP, but I've got a plan.
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. I mean, this discussion, nobody wants to talk about losing their spouse. Nobody wants to talk about death, right? But you also don't want to be that military family that's caught completely unprepared. Because that is equally as devastating, I think, just piles on at some point. And so I love that you're saying, like, this is the beginning of the conversation that we need to have. And I appreciate that you brought in those numbers from AFMA, but like Sarah says, there's lots of options out there, right?
Mhm.
So you really should do the cost comparison. Look at your family history. Nothing is certain, and no military family is the same. So what works for my family is not necessarily going to work for your family. And that's where these financial conversations get so tricky, because we wish there was like this checklist that says, just do this, do this, and you're set for life. But there's nothing like that. So the reason I say that is because, I mean, if you've been following this series at all, you know how smart Sarah is about money. And remember, she likes it. She wants to help you keep your money. That's what she wants to do. So I just want to encourage you to reach out to her and connect with her if you want more information about this kind of stuff, because she's going to be the perfect person to kind of guide you to who that next resource is, where you can come up with a plan that you feel really safe and secure about for your family. These are huge decisions and very stressful decisions, especially during the retirement process, right? I mean, like, I just remember us sitting there for those 3 hours with our spreadsheet. And now I think I could have done it in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's one of those things you don't know till you know, right? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the whole point of this, is starting the discussion, having it. Hopefully somebody here hears that, sees the link, and they go, hey, you're getting ready to retire in the next year. Go to this link, right? And a lot of things in the military community, I think, and found that I was always trying to pass on information to either the junior service member or the junior service member's spouse, right? It's, my job to let you know, because if not, who's going to? So that's what we're doing here. But, I think if I had one thing to say, like, what's that one piece of advice through all of this, through this whole iteration and this whole series, it would be to seek financial advice, right? It would be when you're going through a military transition, or you're going through a life event, a large life event, you need someone to take an objective view, a non-emotional, mathematical, objective view, to give you a whole financial picture of whatever your end result is in varying options. And a financial planner can do that. They can make those projections. They can show your actual RMDs based off your investing pattern. They can calculate your Social Security. They can help you understand your budget better and where you can put, various money. So, it's a huge decision, SBP or life insurance. But I think the bigger thing is leaving the military is a really big decision. And so not only the emotional aspect, but it can help to have kind of an objective view of somebody saying, these would be my recommendations. Have you thought about this, that, and the other, right? And asking questions.
Yeah. Can I just tell you, I kind of love that final thought piece. I mean, this is the end of our 4-part series, right? But that last little tidbit right there, which is just that last word of advice of take the time to make sure that you're secure in your future just by talking to a financial advisor. You still have all the choices. You don't have to take their advice. You can still do whatever you want to do, but having that big picture, I think, looking back now, if I could do it all over again, I would say we're coming in a little bit behind the curve. I wish we had done this before retirement happened as opposed to after retirement happened. But there's so many things that are going on during retirement. It's just one more thing to the list that you're stressed out about. So if you're 2 to 3 5 years out, even right now, take the time, start this process, this financial process now. Go back and rewatch the other 3 live streams that Sarah and I have done about what kind of benefits you can expect, about your budgeting and where it can go. Get that budgeting spreadsheet that we have available for anyone. Download the transition timeline that we've put together. It's available through SpouseLink. And then last week when we talked about TSP, like just having in mind those numbers for like making sure financially that your family is secure, because you're losing a 20-year career, right? Or, you know, you're losing a career that your service member has invested into for whatever length of time if you're transitioning, and then 20 plus years if you're retiring. And that can be a really scary moment for a family that doesn't know what's next necessarily. So anyway.
Well, and I just have to say, Anna, that I love how you took the unknown and realizing, a lot of self-awareness of, wait a minute, I don't think I'm doing this the best way because I don't think I've gotten the resources. And you've now made it a mission to make it better for others. And I have to just commend you for that, because you took something and said, wait, this just can't be right. We just can't keep doing it like this. And you're on a mission to make it easier and better for military spouses and transitioning service members. So thank you for what you are doing in that and together.
Thank you. I am on a mission. Because there is a better way. Don't do it like I did. Like my motto. Don't do it like we did. I mean, it wasn't terrible. We didn't end up like destitute or anything along those lines. It was way harder than it should have ever been. And there's so many tools that I've discovered now that we did not know. They were not handed to us. They were not told to us by, the people that were supposed to be helping us through that transition process. They're busy. They forget stuff. It's not part of their PowerPoint presentation, whatever the reason is. So yes, there's so much information out there that is available. So reach out to me, reach out to Sarah. I'm going to make sure that you have our contact information. I do want to say we are, even though this finance series is over, SpouseLink is continuing with the live streams twice monthly. We're going to be talking about all sorts of retiring and transitioning topics. And so if you're interested, I would encourage you to sign up at our bit.ly SpouseLink live stream link. And then right a week before the live stream happens, I just send you an email out that talks about what the conversation is going to be and sends you the invite to all the different links. Oh, look, Nicole, solidarity. Those of us who did it wrong, we are going to pave the way for future military spouses to do it right, at least easier. That's all I'm here for, just to make it a little bit easier. So anyway, sign up for that SpouseLink link. I'm also going to drop a link into the comments that is Sarah's feedback form. It's a jot form. So if you could fill out that jot form link for Sarah. And then Sarah, can you please tell everyone, let me pull this up. Can you tell everyone how they can connect with you?
Sure. So you can connect through afma.com, through the website. LinkedIn is a great way. You can connect through me through LinkedIn, send me a message, or direct email is also a great way. You get carrier pigeon. However you want to get a question or you need help, just let me know. So any of those 3 ways are a great way to connect, and I'm here to help. And like Anna said, I do have a jot form. This is, it's something that helps me know, was this information beneficial? How was it delivered? Let me know how I'm doing, or what information you might want to hear about, so that we can better make this a better process for everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So look for that in the comments. And if you can just take the 2 minutes it takes to give Sarah that feedback, it's also super, super helpful for us to tailor this information for future live streams, because financial information changes. Like, we can give you some basics, but who's not to say that a year from now, Sarah and I will be back teaming up again going, guess what? New stuff, new things, new ideas, just to make it even easier for you. And then last but not least, our upcoming live stream that we're going to be doing March 10th. We're going to be talking about stages of retirement. I have 3 additional military spouses, 2 that are in the process of retiring, one that's about a year out, one that's about 4 years out, and then one that is like just a couple of months, like this year it's happening, and then myself as the retiree. And we're just going to be talking about those different stages that you find yourself in, and the conversations that need to happen, the feelings that happen, the things that we aren't thinking about. We're just going to have this very casual cup of coffee conversation. So we hope you'll join us on March 10th for that. Okay. Yeah, super excited. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us for this SpouseLink Live-In. Go visit SpouseLink, fill out the job. I mean, there's so many things to do, so I'm just going to list them off one more time. Sign up for the SpouseLink live stream series on that bit.ly link. Fill out Sarah's job form and give her some feedback. Go visit SpouseLink and see what SpouseLink can do for you today. Thank you. We are so glad you're here with us, and we hope to see you on March 10th.
Yeah.